Good morning, and thank you for joining our webinar. On behalf of the Institute for Local Government, I really appreciate you taking time today to learn more about apprenticeships for local agencies. I look forward to learning about your questions and the organizations you are with during today's webinar. And I do want to thank our panelists also for joining us today. And certainly we are in unique times, and so spending time together online is a special experience for all of us. So again, thank you for being here. My name is Randy K. Stevens, and I am a program manager with the Institute for Local Government, and I oversee the work that we are doing through our civics education and workforce pillar. As a reminder, since some of us are new to GoToWebinar, or we've been using other products more recently, I wanted to remind you to use the chat box feature to go ahead and ask any questions that you may have. And you'll notice on the GoToWebinar box system, there's an option for asking questions, there's an option for handouts, and you can also make sure to check in on your screen time there too. Thank you. So for today's webinar, we'll go ahead and introduce you to the Institute for Local Government and our work on civics education and workforce, and that also includes apprenticeship. And then we'll be hearing from three of our speakers, Laura Thompson with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, Marissa Trejo, City Manager, City of Coalinga, and Karina Perez, West Hills Community College District. We invite you to participate by sending your questions in during each of the presenters' talks, and you can go ahead and chat those through the question box feature I mentioned earlier. And we'll be sharing several tools and resources available through both the Institute and our partners who are presenting today, as well as some other resources from other organizations. And lastly, I invite you to contact each of us, both our presenters and myself at the Institute, to really keep this conversation going beyond today's 1-hour webinar. So with that, I'd like to invite you to share a little bit about who you are and your organization. So we'll be doing a quick little poll. First question up is to ask, what kind of organization are you with? Perhaps you're with a special district, a city, a county, a school, or a nonprofit or community-based organization. All right, looks like we're still collecting a couple of responses. All right, go ahead and close that poll. Thank you for joining us and for sharing. It looks like we've got quite a few from our nonprofit and community-based organizations. We have about 5% from our school district partners, 13% from special districts, 13% from counties, and about 48% from cities. So really appreciate all of your organizations for providing you the time to join us today to learn more about apprenticeship and how it's available to both trades and non-trades positions. All right, we'll do one last poll. Now in this poll, we're asking if you're with a rural, suburban, urban organization, or some type of hybrid between those organizations, or between those community types. All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. Looks like we've got most of our respondents. All right. Oh, this is fantastic. What I'm seeing here on my end is that we have about 26% of our participants are with rural organizations, about 18% are with suburban, and 37% are with an urban type organization. And among our participants, we also have those who are in a hybrid, rural suburban or suburban urban type neighborhood community, and that's about 18% or 1/5 of our group. So thank you so much for telling us your story and your demographic. I wish we had time and capability to have each of you introduce yourselves personally, but I do appreciate knowing more about who's participating today, and it will help our speakers better connect with you and perhaps tailor their remarks just a tad bit more. All right. So a little bit about the Institute for Local Government. We are the nonprofit training and education affiliate of the California Special Districts Association, California State Association of Counties, and the League of California Cities. We provide practical and easy resources so local agencies can be effective in implementing policies on the ground. And as mentioned, I'm with the Civics Education and Workforce pillar, but my organization also has 3 others: leadership and governance, public engagement, and sustainable communities. We offer a variety of services to help support local governments, including education and training, technical assistance, capacity building, and convening. Our mission is to help local government leaders navigate complexity and create capacity and build trust in their community. So Institute is focused on workforce, and why is that? Well, we're finding that California local governments are faced with the challenge of attracting, retaining, and developing the talent they need to serve very diverse communities. We also see that there's a lack of awareness about how local government works. What are the roles and responsibilities? What are the career opportunities? So our solution is to create a catalyst among local government education partners to inspire and educate youth and new to workforce folks, and inspire genuine interest in public sector careers and leadership opportunities. We want to create the change agents from within organizations and those who are supporting change on the outside. We have a number of resources available to you, including our Picture Yourself in Local Government curriculum, a fantastic kind of easy guide for understanding the basics of local government. We have a toolkit to help you understand how to create an effective school and local agency partnership. And we also have information about a collaborative that the Institute helps to lead in the Sacramento region, where we are truly doing the catalyst work of integrating partners among education, K-12 to university, local and state government agencies, and community-based organizations to create an effective pipeline and strong pathways into the careers within public service. Now, what is our landscape? What does the current public sector look like in California? We know that 15% of all jobs in California are in the public sector. Now, that would include local, state, and federal government. And 1.7 of those 15% jobs, 1.7 million are within local government. We also know that 1/4, 25% of all of our local government employees are more than 55 years old. Now, we are lucky to have great research out of the Cal ICMA Talent Initiative. They released a report in 2018, the Talent Initiative 2.0, and that had key strategies in for attracting and retaining talent in local government. And what we're showing you here is some of those strategies, including stay interviews, flexible schedules, rotational assignments to grow those skill sets. And that would be for existing employees. For new employees, and through your hiring and recruitment process, there are suggestions including eliminating minimum qualifications, changing the job announcements and describing actual impact of the work, and changing the timing of the recruitment process. The lengthy process can be a turnoff for those who are looking for a job faster, much like our folks in the private sector turn around jobs much faster. Well, there are many options to think about when it comes to strategies and solutions, and apprenticeship is certainly one of them. It's an adaptable strategy. It can be used to help engage current employees, help transform the agency, and be an effective tool for creating partnerships among your education and local government agencies. Apprenticeship can also help meet your public sector goals of diversifying your employment and also serving as a tailored approach to increasing and gaining the skills you need within your talent base. I'd like to introduce you to today's presenters, including Karina Pura from West Hills Community College District, Laura Thompson, Division of Apprenticeship Standards, State of California, and Marissa Trejo, City Manager, City of Coalinga. And with that, I do want to introduce Laura, who will be our first speaker. And here's a little bit about Laura. Laura serves as a strategic business advisor with Apprenticeship and Workforce Innovation, a branch of Division of Apprenticeship Standards. Laura's background is in business management. She's owned and operated 2 restaurants and a real estate recruiting company in California, Oregon, and Washington. Laura's apprenticeship emphasis is in civil service and other non-traditional industries. With that, thank you, Laura, for being here. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Randy Kay. I appreciate that. Next slide, if you will, please. Thank you all for attending with us today. Next slide, please. Thank you. California Division of Apprenticeship Standards, Apprenticeship and Workforce Innovation Unit concentrates mostly on non-traditional industries, but we also have the traditional industries that you've been probably most familiar with over time. In total, we have 94,118 registered apprentices. 1,156 of those have been registered just since March 1st. 71 registered pre-apprentices. You'll see that we're having even over 36,000 participating employers. That is growing. Many programs statewide, active educational institutions, that's 300, but the number is also growing there. And 8,000 state apprentices graduate annually. It's our average at this moment, but we intend for that to increase. Our goal is to have, or the governor's goal is to have 500,000 registered apprentices by the year 2029. So we're right on track for that lofty goal. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the apprenticeship landscape, we've been expanding these apprenticeships to include information technology, healthcare, civil service, and advanced manufacturing. And you'll see many of our programs listed here. I wanted to concentrate on the civil service today. In fact, part of the information technology, the program that we have with IBM is the California's first private-public partnership in the state of California for mainframe occupations. So that also is kind of a hybrid between information technology and civil service. But we're also talking about these other hard-to-fill occupations, such as financial services, LVN to RN, youth disabled, and others like we're going to mention today. And Karina and Marissa are going to be speaking to the Coalinga account clerk and also the HR analyst positions. We have many programs with the state of California, but also with San Joaquin County. Some of those outlying areas are really, there are many initiatives and much money that has been available through the California Apprenticeship Initiative grants to fund their programs for information technology. And another one that's going to be presenting itself this next year is paralegal. So next slide, please. Apprenticeship really does develop long-term community partnerships for recruitment, work-based learning opportunities. You can actually utilize talent from your incumbent workforce. You could source from a variety of different places, and so that's what kind of makes it nice, is that you could customize the program to your agency or to your organization, to develop those pathways for training and promoting staff. So. Diversity is really top-notch for all of us, and apprenticeship really lends itself to creating diversity and inclusion. Next slide, please. So with the skilled workforce, it definitely is a benefit to the employer. And again, there are several places that you can source your talent from. A lot of times it's just upskilling your present workforce. Also financially, when you become state and federally registered, you are your program is eligible to receive grants and different funding streams that come from the California government or or through federal. Also, apprenticeship does create a loyalty. People, 94%, it's been cited that 94% of the apprentices will stay with their employer, or 87%, I'm sorry. And also, this apprenticeship reduces recruitment costs and turnover. And one of the things I like best about apprenticeship is that we can actually customize this to your organization. We can meet your vacancy needs, your occupational needs, and create a pathway for people to, make sure that you have that talent pipeline to meet the needs of your business. Next slide, please. Okay, there's that number. 94% of employees say that they would stay with the company longer, if the employer invests in their career. And this is the LinkedIn workplace learning citing. Benefits to the apprentice, a lot of times they come out with no college debt. They have the opportunity to actually apply what they're learning at the same time that they're receiving the curriculum. So not just the theory, but also the application. They get lifelong skills. They also get a state and nationally recognized credential, and they actually are, ready for that next step in your workforce needs with that combination of earned and learn. Next slide, please. Your return on investment as an employer is significant. For every dollar invested, it's about $1.50 as a return. In fact, 80% of apprentices are employed after completing their certification training. And for the apprentice too, we've noticed that there's a lasting impact. This is from the Mathematical Policy Research in 2012, a little old but still applicable. Apprentices who have successfully completed registered apprenticeship programs typically earn $300,000 more over their lifetime earnings than their peers. So really, for dollar, no workforce training method packs as much of a punch as apprenticeship does. Next slide, please. I just wanted to show you one of our civil service programs, kind of the structure of it. This is our State of California Financial Services Apprenticeship Program, and then includes several employers. The State of California is the employer, but several agencies under that. We have the EDD, also Department of Justice, Department of Rehabilitation, California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. The local agency education partner is American River College, and this program is funded through the California Apprenticeship Initiative grant, as are many of our programs. These occupations are hard to fill occupations with the state of California: tax examiners, collectors, and revenue agents, accountants, and auditors. This has been a really successful program where we had 12 people for our first cohort, and we're looking forward to more. Next slide, please. And the San Joaquin County Apprenticeship Program is an exciting one. This is the Information Systems Specialist occupation. So it's also funded by the California Apprenticeship Initiative grant, and San Joaquin Delta is its agency partner. These programs run through local education agency partner, unless you have in-house training, but even then it needs to be sanctioned by the LEA. So next slide, please. There is a few different funding streams for apprenticeship. Programs are often funded by the California Apprenticeship Initiative grant. Also closes the skills gap, and that actually has to do with H-1B visa programs. And also related in supplemental instruction, this is just kind of a reimbursement to the schools, our in-house training, and then apportionment also does apply. There's a couple of different ways that works. Employer funding can come through the Workforce Innovation Opportunities Act. It could support the on-the-job training components and also pay for cost of related classroom instruction. Next slide, please. We would be happy to connect with you. We are DAS is all throughout California. We have consultants that would provide personalized service and kind of help build your apprenticeship program. We facilitate partnerships in your community to build those apprenticeship programs with you. And here is our contact information. Thank you for letting me take time with you today.
Thank you so much, Laura, for your presentation on apprenticeship from the Division of Apprenticeship Standards and the resources and team you have to help grow apprenticeship throughout the state of California. I know I've learned a lot through preparations of this webinar and understanding how apprenticeship can be beneficial to local government. And so I hope that those who are on the line interested in apprenticeship continue to reach out to the colleagues that you shared on that last slide. And as a general reminder, everyone will receive a copy of the slide deck following the webinar. You'll get it in an email along with a copy of the questions that are asked. And with that, I do want to go ahead and move on to our next presentation. And unfortunately, I do have to let folks know that Marissa Trejo could not actually make this portion of the webinar. As city manager, she is certainly being responsive to the needs of her community as they endure the current crisis of COVID-19. And so while she helped prepare generously with the slide deck and the article that we had in Western City Magazine, unfortunately, she did need to attend to some other matters at this very moment. So with that, I want to share that where is the city of Coalinga? You'll see here on the screen that there is a map of California, and we indicated where the city hall and city of Coalinga is located. You'll see it nearby Fresno. Certainly it's in the Central Valley. It's a much smaller community. You've likely passed by if you've ever driven along I-5, and it's a wonderful community. And with that, here's some more about the assets and about Coalinga. More than 13,000 people live there. It is a full service city, and it is also home to West Hills Community College, a local community hospital, a full library, its own municipal airport, a separate Parks and Recreation district, and it has two major state facilities, Pleasant Valley State Prison and the Coalinga State Hospital. Now, being a smaller rural community does have challenges and barriers, and Marissa shared that several of the challenges include finding a skilled workforce for the positions she has available, the hiring process and how long it takes to find the right candidate and to bring them on board, and the need to train for essential skills. City of Coalinga often works with entry-level candidates and trains them individually. Marissa shared she generally trains each of her employees personally. And overall, being a rural city, there is limited staff capacity. So cross-training and understanding different roles is essential to keeping that organization up and running and being effective at serving the citizens of Coalinga. Now, the Human Resources Analyst Apprenticeship is something I'd like to invite my colleague Karina Pereira to share about. Karina was instrumental in creating the Human Resources Apprenticeship. And Karina, this is Randy Kay. I've unmuted your mic. If you could keep yours on mute for just a second, I'll invite you to share a few words. But I wanted to just give a little bit of background why Coalinga felt the need to start with the Human Resources Analyst position. The city manager, Marissa Trejo, has actually been manager for over 5 years with Coalinga, and she's actually been with the city for 12 years. But one of her first positions was actually as the Human Resource Analyst for the city of Coalinga. And so the city manager considers herself to be a servant leader, and in addition to her role in training and building up her own staff as the city manager for Coalinga, she also serves as faculty and a teacher to help others grow their skills through different online universities. And with that, I'm going to invite Karina to go ahead and start sharing a few words. I'm going to unmute your mic and then I'll mute mine.
Okay, great. Thank you, Randy K. Am I being heard okay? I'll just assume that I am. So in early 2019, West Hills launched a collection of 4-credit and fully online classes to train HR personnel and marketed those courses free of charge for registered apprentices. The city of Coalinga had previously conducted on-the-job training for its HR personnel and then looked at the apprenticeship model as an opportunity for its employees to integrate new skills with formal accredited business courses offered by the college. The city established its apprenticeship program, received state approval, and registered a human resources employee to the program who immediately enrolled in the course set. This employee will actually complete her final course this spring. She's acquired some new skills from the curriculum that was taught over the past handful of semesters, and she should receive a step increase upon completion while also receiving a formal credential from the state of California, which results in a significant increase in employee job confidence. The employee's journey has encouraged other staff to inquire to Marissa about training opportunities. So the city worked with their SEIU 521 union representative, West Hills College, and the Division of Apprenticeship Standards in the approval of an account clerk apprenticeship. The most exciting thing about the account clerk apprenticeship program is that it's going to combine the skills through the on-the-job training and the coursework that we've designed in order to cross-train 3 employees currently working in different capacities within that business office at the city. This new position shall give those employees the ability to pivot and cover each other's duties when needed, which helps a small community with limited resources stretch in its capacity. Coalinga is currently developing their next program. That's a police technician apprenticeship that would accomplish that same goal. The draft program standards for these apprenticeship programs are available, I see, in the handouts of this webinar for those attending. And the next slide, please. The city of Coalinga is taking every advantage of utilizing registered apprenticeship for expanding professional development so its employees can gain new skills and credentials, and their local community college can fill class seats and meet state completion goals. That's a winning partnership in our minds, and it also contributes to the city's goal of strengthening efficiency and productivity within its various departments where human resources are currently thin. As an added bonus, public sector employees have completed apprenticeship, having completed apprenticeship are encouraged to continue their education now that they have a good rapport with the local college faculty and support staff and have become accustomed to college level course rigor. That's a big win. So with that, back to Randy K.
Thank you so much, Karina, for pitching in and helping to share the experience from Coalinga. For those of you who would like more information about the experience that Marissa and her team went through at Coalinga, I invite you to take a look at the Western City article, and we can share that link in addition to the slide deck following the presentation today. And overall, I would like to invite our speakers to share during Q&A a little bit more about kind of the average age of apprenticeship. I think one of the things that we saw is that, or that we might have in mind, is that somehow apprenticeship is for folks who are brand new into their career journey. And I think one of the things we're learning through apprenticeship is that a lot of folks are taking advantage of this opportunity as they kind of decide on a career path and they're closer to 28 and 29. So I'll invite Karina and Laura to share more about that later. And with that, I also would like to formally introduce Karina. Thank you so much for helping share that Coalinga message. Karina Pera is the Director of Apprenticeship Programs for West Hills Community College District. In her position, she connects local businesses, employer associations, industry representatives, and public agencies with the college's workforce training programs, and she oversees a variety of non-traditional apprenticeship programs. She writes and manages the workforce-related grants in an effort to close the current labor gap in the Central Valley region. Karina has developed numerous workplace learning and workforce training programs for large and small employers, including public agencies. She's active on the Fresno Regional Workforce Development Board, the Manufacturing Alliance, and the Kings County Education Planning Council. She's also a veteran. She served in the United States Navy and holds a Master's of Science in Management and Leadership. Thank you, Karina, for joining us today. And I would like to invite you to now formally share your slides. And I will mute myself and then go ahead.
Thank you, Randy Kay. It's really important for local governments as well as industry to be familiar with the steps to obtaining state approval for a registered apprenticeship program. This is a solid strategy you can certainly rely on. Step one is to determine your organization's needs. For the city of Kalinga, there was a need for cross-training and cross-qualifications. For your city, you may have a shortage of skilled labor for a particular job and feel it's necessary to hire entry-level employees. You can transform into journey-level professionals. Either works, and there's probably some other scenarios as well you could be looking at. First, recognizing the problem, you can then determine if apprenticeship is a viable solution. So in going forward with apprenticeship as your training mechanism, you'll look within for a training committee. I'd first look to selecting someone from your HR team. HR typically will handle the apprentice training records, so this seems ideal. If union, a labor representative should also be on that committee. You'll want no less than 3 committee members who will construct the training program with the help of the Division of Apprenticeship Standards consultant, a person like Laura, who's also a panelist here today. A representative of the local education agency of your choosing should also attend the program development meetings in order to offer reliable coursework as required for the apprenticeship. Program standards are developed within a series of meetings. However, I've seen where a committee might set aside 5 or 6 consecutive hours and are sometimes successful in knocking out the whole project just in one day. And so at this point, once the program standards have been developed, the Division of Apprenticeship Standards has a set of internal procedures for submitting the program for state approval. That next process then can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months. After state approval is granted, the committee shall meet regularly to manage the program, and members will be responsible for ensuring apprentice success. I should add that committee members should also be assigned roles on the committee, and committees can take place via teleconference when necessary. And the next slide, please. Apprenticeship program standards come in a template form initially, provided by the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. The committee determines on-the-job training work processes, usually derived directly from the job's duty statement. For each process, a certain number of hours is applied according to the number of hours one would expect the individual would be able to master the skill set of each work process. No less than 2,000 hours is allowed for the entire program length. This is equivalent to about 1 year if a full-time position. This is what makes apprenticeship different from, say, internships or externships. It's a minimum of 2,000 hours, so it's to develop an actual skilled worker. A minimum of 144 hours for every 2,000 hours of on-the-job training is required. 144 hours of instruction in 1 year is equal to about 3 college-level courses. So 1 course in the spring, 1 in the summer, and 1 in the fall is recommended for a full-time apprentice. However, many programs deliver 2 courses per term, and that's okay too. We're just careful not to require an extreme amount of class hours for full-time employees who may also have families and other personal responsibilities, because first and foremost, we want to ensure the apprentice can succeed in the program, especially when they're an incumbent worker already and rely on that job. Lastly, a progressive wage scale with not less than 1 wage increase during the apprenticeship is required. So next slide. So program standards consist of articles that define the program's policies and responsibilities, a list of committee members overseeing the program, a wage progression scale, the course outline, the work processes, and the number of hours of mastery for those work processes, which we also call on-the-job training. Employer selection procedures, although for public agencies, there's an exemption for this document, and the letter of commitment from the local education agency. Next slide, please. So here are just some examples of local education agencies you can utilize for your instruction. That could be college district offices, county offices of education, adult schools, unified school districts, and community colleges. You, as long as you have a local education agency in place, you can move to the next slide, please, Randy Kay. You can then offer your apprentices instruction via online, face-to-face. A laboratory component may be involved. There can be correspondence courses involved, and you can also do some sort of hybrid model. We do also have employers who provide their own training, their own instruction, their own classroom space and training, and that's okay too, so long as a local education agency is involved. And so those are some of the modalities, and courses can also be for credit, non-credit, not for credit. That looks like a contract training through your college, possibly. It could be a combination of all of those or some of those, and it could also be prior training credit that's been given for those that may say perhaps already have like a degree or something like that. So the next slide is the keys to a successful apprenticeship program. And this is my favorite slide because it really explains what it's all about if you really want to make it all work. And so first and foremost, you need a champion. And in industry, that's something we might refer to as an industry champion, like a CEO or someone at the top that can drive the work down into the organization. At a public agency, that may be, such as Marissa, a city manager. So that would be the leadership within the agency or department that designates internal supervisors and managers to initiate the apprenticeship program development, and as well as the management, as well as assigning management duties for the apprenticeship program. And then you're going to need a training committee. So those are the chosen leaders acting as program ambassadors who originate and oversee the apprenticeship program standards, assess program outcomes, resolve challenges, draft, adopt, and revise the program rules and regulations. You are going to want some rules and regulations in place. And draft, adopt, and submit any changes that take place in the program, such as changes to the course curriculum, the on-the-job training, wages, etc. And then you'll need an administrator. And typically this may look like an HR individual or somebody different than that internally might work out just great. Just depends, and it depends on if it's a multi-employer environment or it's just a single employer environment, if you'd want an administrator that's external to the agency or someone internal. That person would monitor program compliance, act as an apprentice or committee liaison, schedules training committee meetings, ensures apprentices are registered with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, assists apprentices in enrolling in designed or designated courses, and tracks apprentice on-the-job training hours and work processes. Keep in mind, this individual, this administrator, can also be a committee member. And so this is a framework for success in apprenticeship, and support is continuously provided by the Division of Apprenticeship Standards and your local education agency. And so with that, I'll hand it back to Randy Kay.
Thank you so much, Karina. I really appreciate your slides. I apologize, I had my phone on mute to make sure there was no background. I want to just thank you for sharing those keys to the successful apprenticeship, including that key champion. While Marissa couldn't join us today, she certainly has been a key advocate and champion for apprenticeship because it's benefiting her agency. And she is also creating new paths for apprenticeship by creating the account clerk position in addition to the HR analyst. And from what I understand, there's actually looking a public safety component to this apprenticeship going forward too, or at least in development. So there are ways to tailor apprenticeship to meet the needs of your communities. And what I'm looking for now is a chance to connect with our participants on today's webinar. And I invite you to share some of your questions. What are some of your comments? What is the feedback that you have for our panelists today? And I will go ahead and unmute both Laura and Karina, but if it does present any sort of echo, I will go ahead and mute one of them at a time. All right, Karina and Laura, you are both unmuted, and I wanted to share one of the questions that came through earlier on in the call, earlier on in the webinar, and it came from a colleague from Nevada County, Human Resources and Internship Coordinator. I believe it's Mr. Newland is looking for information about what is pre-apprenticeship. And while that wasn't today's main topic, I was hoping that Laura, you might be able to share what pre-apprenticeship is with our audience today.
Certainly. Pre-apprenticeship, that's a great question. Pre-apprenticeship is kind of a, just what it, just how it is phrased. I hear an echo. I'm so sorry.
I'll go ahead and mute one of the other mics then. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Typically, it's 4 to 16 weeks in length, and it's actually it's not for profit by any means, and not for so that the pre-apprentice is not exploited at all. We actually want to make sure that they're not paid for production. That's what I'm trying to say, and they're learning a lot of the hands-on skills for the next step into a registered apprenticeship. A pre-apprenticeship has to be linked to an apprenticeship program, so it does, sequentially go into that next phase of apprenticeship. A lot of times, actually, I think we'll stop there.
Okay, thank you so much. And I know that wasn't the main topic of today's presentation, but we can share more information about that in a follow-up message that goes out with both the slides and the article I've mentioned that's in Western City. I'm going to go ahead and share a few more of the questions that are coming through. And one of these questions is from Diana Dominguez. She's asking, if apprenticeships require 2,000 hours, assuming they're working 40 hours a week, is this about 1 year of full-time work? And I will go ahead and unmute Karina and ask Karina to go ahead and see if she can answer that question.
Yes, so while you can do a part-time apprenticeship, that's absolutely acceptable, most are full-time. And so 2,000 hours does equal a full-time position for the most part.
Thank you so much. And a follow-up question to that is just how many years does it typically take for an apprenticeship? And that question comes from Oriana Magani. Thank you very much for that question. So how many years does an apprenticeship last?
Thanks, Laura. You could actually customize the program for as many years as it would take to meet those minimum qualifications for some of the civil service industries. Hi, Oriana. Or it could be more of a competency-based. So until they meet, for information technology occupation might meet digital badges or get certain certifications, A+ certifications, or something of that sort. So it could be a hybrid of a program, or it could actually meeting certifications and having that related supplemental instruction, as well as a set amount of hours. It's just according to the program and what's necessary.
Great, thank you so much for answering that one, Laura. One of the other questions we're getting in is from, again, from Mr. Newland. For the city, and I'm assuming this is referencing Coalinga, how did you identify which apprenticeship to start first?
Okay, so with the HR professional apprenticeship, it was one that as the college district, I pushed it out because I saw that there was a need across the state for individuals to work in that capacity that didn't necessarily have a bachelor's degree, but sort of more of a technician level. So when I launched the marketing for that, Marissa with the city of Coalinga just happened to see the marketing piece and contacted me, and she had 2 individuals working in HR and wanted to bring one up to speed on, at the same level the other one had been working in for many years, and I believe also had a degree in HR. So it was a way of sort of leveling out the position so they could both work together, at the same level and in the same capacity. And I believe they will complete, and so we created that to be a 2-year program. We felt that was what it would take. Now, keep in mind, it was an incumbent worker who already had a couple of years experience in the position, so we gave her a year's worth of credit, so 2,000 hours of credit in a 4,000 hour program. And then she took the courses there was about, I believe, 6 or 7 courses that we created for that program. And it just so happened that was the first program that came along. And then Marissa then came to me about looking at another position, and then a 3rd position with the police technician program to try to accomplish the same goals. And so just piggybacking on the last question, in each occupation, we just determined, first of all, how many courses were needed, and then what was reasonable for that number of courses to develop the term of the program around. And then also just kind of considering what skill level might have been equivalent to, how to decide how many hours and how many years are necessary to build that particular skill level. So in a account clerk, we also determined 2,000 hours, or I'm sorry, 4,000 hours, so 2 years was necessary, mostly because in that case, there were quite a number of courses that Marissa had chose, from anything from computer skills courses to an administration of justice course. So there's some courses in there that I think really bring those employees to doing some work that it's just more well-rounded skill sets. So I hope that answers that question and more.
That was really helpful, Karina. I appreciate that. And in fact, we have a question that relates to that one coming from San Long. What is the time frame between starting an initial discussion, between a municipal government and someone like you with West Hills? How long does it take to get it started? How do you get it off the ground?
Well, so there's a couple of, well, it's different for every agency or any employer. It depends on how much time they have to put into the program and how urgent their need is. So I think I may have mentioned in one of the slides, I've seen where I've seen it in both extremes. I'll just say for the city of Coalinga, we probably met twice in like hour-and-a-half long meetings and sort of built the program around that. But I had a nice template, and we had already kind of went back and forth in a couple of emails about what courses from our catalog the city manager wanted to tap into. So again, I've seen it from where I've worked with an employer that set up a small committee, and we just plowed through a 6 or 7 hour day with a lunch break and got through a whole developing an entire set of program standards and made it, set up or at least voted on it and made it a thing, and then got it submitted to the state. And then I've seen where I worked with a university, a new university, on some building trades positions, and it took over two and a half years. And that was because union representation kept changing, or they'd lose their, HR director took a job somewhere else and left midstream. So there was always something that was happening that was delaying the process, and they were only meeting every 3 months for 2 hours. And some of the individuals had to come in from out of town for those meetings. So, I don't recommend it that way, but it just depends on the urgency and the agency and how quickly they'd like to see things get off the ground.
Thank you, Karina. I do appreciate it. This is definitely something that's tailored and it takes time to set up, but the investment can be worth it, as we're seeing here with the city of Coalinga as our example today. And looking through additional questions, I wanted to mention Caleb Schneider has a question, a bit of a concern, in that he's mentioning that it looks like a lot of work to develop a single employee. Do you have, they only have a small number of positions that come up each year. Is there a method for creating a general purpose apprenticeship so that it can be tailored after, say, 6 months or so? And Karina or Laura, I'm going to ask Laura if you want to take that question first. Laura, I'm not sure if you can still hear me or not. I'm hoping you're still.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Getting.
Here I am. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, there is a way that you could actually create more of a general occupation. In fact, right now we're creating minimum industry training information curriculum for different occupations, and so it would be something. The programs are specific to your needs, and there could be actually a class that would be more generalized, maybe with some cross training. And the program can be set up to meet those minimum standards that you have, or the minimum qualifications for your for the occupations that you have vacant or would like to feed into. So the answer in short is yes, it's all in the creation of the program and how it's customized for you.
Thanks, Laura. Karina, did you want to offer anything else on that particular question?
I think perhaps a good example is the account clerk position. And I wish I could tell you, if Marissa was here, she could tell you exactly what the 3 different positions in the business office that she used for that. So these were 3 existing employees that worked in different capacities within her office, and developing a set of like work processes and bringing in an assigned amount or a course set or assigned amount of courses would help to put all of those employees in one position so that they're cross-trained to do each other's functions and jobs, right? So, in small rural communities such as City of Coalinga and a small city office like that with limited resources, it was sensible to use a general occupation and cross-train those individuals. If someone goes out, just for example, maternity leave, that lasts 3 or 4 months, and then that leaves a whole vacancy within the office. So having those folks all working toward gaining skills and mastering job skills in all 3 occupations, and then getting a wage increase and a credential, an actual state credential as an account clerk, I think that's a good example of what we're talking about, because all 3 of those individuals were able to work in that position. I think in just the case of HR, yes, while it was 1 position, I don't feel in that case it was a lot of work. We spent 2 days, just a couple of hours, putting the program together. The committees met maybe twice over the term of the apprenticeship, and the employees pretty much doing all of the work. So they're the ones trying to master those skills and going to school. There was a little bit of work between myself and the apprentice in getting that person enrolled in classes, and then at times that apprentice reaches out to my coordinator when she's got concerns in the classes, or just needs some maybe advisory, somebody to act in an advisory capacity for her as she encounters issues or challenges in classes. And so I really didn't think it was a whole lot of work on the part of the city manager. I feel like she's very happy with how the whole thing has come about and provided an opportunity and some credential for her employees. So I hope that helps. But I do feel like we've kind of got that part nipped in the bud, and at least a good system to getting these programs onboarded.
Thank you, Karina. Appreciate it. I will go ahead and mute you one more time. I just want to offer one more comment that came through from Oriana Magani. It looks like she's the She shares that she's the one implementing the San Joaquin County a 3-year apprenticeship program, which has both on-the-job and educational components. She shares that it's important to note how flexible these programs are. You have to be creative in implementation, and there is no set cookie-cutter model based on the city, the county, or the nonprofit, or even the state agency. They are important, but the flexibility lets you start your program with one person. So thank you for that comment, Oriana, and I'd love to learn more about your San Joaquin County experience, and perhaps we can also share that story at another time. All right, there's another question coming through from Don Day Brugeau. Could you develop a youth apprenticeship that feeds into the general pre or registered apprenticeship? And Laura, can I ask if you could please take that question first?
Certainly, and yes, it is possible. Youth apprenticeship there's an initiative for that now, so that's been kind of an item of focus. We've had a little bit of difficulty in getting some of the legislation changed on workers' compensation. So oftentimes when we're talking about youth 16 to 24, the group between 16 and 18 often is at a higher rate for workers' comp, and so not always is it something that the employer wants to cover. So we're working with that now. It's been proposed in legislation that be changed, and that's underway. So or under consideration at this time. But yes, youth apprenticeship programs are definitely something we're targeting. And in fact, San Joaquin County, I know that we have a committee there that's working for that. So it's very possible. It's just dependent on how the program is constructed. But there are actually federal dollars for youth apprenticeship at this time as well.
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to ask Karina if she has anything else to share on that too. Karina?
Yes, thank you, Randy. Youth apprenticeship is very, very new in the US and especially in California. And so I think we're still looking at ways to implement that. And I'd love personally to get an advisory committee together of partners, industry partners, and so on, and just explore some ways to making that work. One way that we're looking at it in the assistant teacher occupation for child development providers is just building in a dual enrollment component of 4-credit child development courses within the high schools. And so they may be doing some internship work in high school, but once they leave high school, they already have 6 or 12 units of child development and then can get a teacher permit and start actually performing the on-the-job training at that point in their apprenticeship. So maybe looking at it more, utilizing a dual enrollment pathway and perhaps courses that are front-loaded before the on-the-job training begins. So something like that. But again, I'd love to explore other options, but we're looking at industry to help us to figure out what that might look like, what that whole framework might look like. And it may be different in different industries.
Thank you both, Karina and Laura, for answering that question and for answering all of the questions that we've received today. And I appreciate the questions that were asked, the variety of questions that were asked about how to start and scale an apprenticeship, how to maximize it for all audience, including youth. And I do think we've received probably all of the questions we're going to get for right now. But if you do have any additional questions regarding apprenticeship, I welcome an email to my inbox at rstevens@ca-ilg.org, or reach out to one of our panelists. Both Laura Thompson and Karina Pera, as well as Marissa's contact information is on one of the last slides. And seeing no other questions, I'll go ahead and share now additional resources that would be available for you, including the Division of Apprenticeship Standards website, information about Westside Works through West Hills Community College District, the Cal ICMA Talent Initiative, including the Talent Initiative report that I mentioned earlier, as well as a link to the Western City article where we highlighted what's happening in Coalinga and the partnership that's emerged and helped build up Suzanne, the HR apprenticeship, in her new role. And it looks like we've got one final comment. Karina, it looks like you have a person interested in joining that advisory group. Thank you, Don Days Rougeau. I have his email address, and I'll make sure to get that over to you. Thank you very much for that, Don. And with that, I'd also like to share some resources from the Institute for Local Government, including our Picture Yourself in Local Government curriculum. This is truly a foundational piece about helping all ages, but certainly those in K-12, understand what are the roles and responsibilities, types of careers, and the process of how local government functions. Available for free online through the Institute's website. Certainly something that can be used to help train brand new employees, those who are brand new to public service, and also something that your local agency may consider to help support development of your boards and commission members if they need broader information about local government. And we also have our resource on developing a school municipal partnership, including some examples of various school municipal partnerships throughout the state of California. It includes materials and resources to help start and scale a model in your community. And I welcome questions if you have interest in doing that in your community. And lastly, I invite you to take a look at pathways-to-public-service.org. This is the Sacramento Regional Collaborative that is about changing the way we address our pipeline into the public service, into the public sector. And go ahead and take a look at that website when you have time. All right, with that, I have our contact information for all of our presenters. And I do want to thank Karina and Laura for being with us today in person and answering all of our questions so well. Unfortunately, Marissa wasn't able to join us due to her responsibilities leading the city through the current COVID-19 crisis, but I do appreciate that she put together slides as well as offered content for the article I mentioned in today's discussion. Looks like you've got quite a few emails coming in, Karina, on your advisory group, so we'll make sure to send those to Karina's way. And with that, seeing no more questions and having gone through our slides, I see we are just at the noon hour, and I want to thank all of you for participating, and really appreciated the dialogue that we had through this GoToWebinar experience. So thank you for joining the Institute for Local Government, and please check back at ca-ilg.org for additional webinars that help support our local government partners. Thank you.